Welcome to Flirting with Realities with your host, Carol, and your co-host, Erik. This is episode 9, I believe.
I've lost track, babe.
Yeah. I think I got episode 8 uploaded finally just yesterday. But so I don't know how many we actually have on Spotify that you can listen to because, like we said, a couple have been banned or who knows what's happening. They don't show up, even though they're on our little app as being there. So anyway, we'll call this 9. We're almost to 10, which is amazing.
It is 10. It is amazing because most people don't make it past 10.
Oh, we're going past 10.
Yeah, so I'm on my personal podcast. I'm on 12. I believe we're past 10, but a few have gotten lost in the shuffle of our problems.
That's okay, though. I'll take the handicap.
Yeah.
We're pushing through. We only got 90 more to 100.
Yeah.
No, piece of cake. Every Thursday. But I guess we're just posting them whenever now. We're kind of, Carol handed it over to me.
I did.
It used to be like structured. Now it's just like whenever you get it, you get it.
Well, it's because of the platform that it's that way. It's not you or me.
Yeah, I mean, literally work all week. Probably try to upload it 15 times.
Yeah.
And then it just goes, it didn't work, or the internet's not working, or whatever. But I'm wondering, there's a good chance that the internet situation changed a little bit today.
I'm hoping.
Because we got this thing that's like a signal booster. We've got one of those internet things that are, they're basically like a hotspot, like a wireless hotspot. So it's like a little box that is a hotspot, but it's got to get good signal to give a hotspot, obviously. And so we don't have a good signal in the house because we've got like a metal roof and we're in the middle of nowhere. So we got to get a signal booster that's on top of the roof and it runs down to next to the hotspot box. Anyway, we've been blaming the hotspot and the internet the whole time. And then today I kind of figured out that the signal booster needed to be reset, which I didn't know that was a thing that could be reset. But anyway, maybe our internet problems are over.
That would be really nice.
And we'll just update or upload podcasts all the time now. On time.
Probably. I see our paradigm shifting that way.
Yeah. So what's going on in Carol Lee's life?
Well, this week I've been working on my new little mini course program, whatever you want to call it, Dating with Purpose. So been super busy with that. And I don't know, we've watched a little bit of YouTube, and something that really caught my eye last night, because you just hit play, or I think we saw the thumbnail, and I was like, Tyler was telling me about that guy.
Your son.
Yeah. My son was telling me about the guy, Diogenes. Diogenes. So you hit play, and what Tyler had told me was very similar to what we watched, but it was way more in depth. What Tyler, well, he told me quite a bit, but the thing that stood out for me was he was like, he really just didn't believe in societal norms. He was a Greek philosopher, and one thing he would do is defecate and urinate in the middle of the street to show people that it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's just part of human existence. But the whole video was very interesting, how this man chose to live in, I don't know what they call it, a tube?
Yeah, it was like a half of a giant coconut shell or something, the way they explained it, like in a cove or something, I don't know. I don't know where you'd find something like that to live, like a little shell.
The thing that stood out to me about him is, I mean, we're nowhere near to the level of Diogenes in any way, shape, or form, but we have found a lot of freedom in letting go of things and being a consumer. He was way farther along than us,
Yeah, so I mean, to fill people in, that's what they were talking about, is how he like believed, like it was an awesome quote actually. It said, the man who needs the least has the most."
Yeah.
And I thought that was an awesome quote. But basically, he was like, he lived in that shell because he didn't want anything. He wanted the opposite, and he just, like he was talking about, they were talking about how that kid was walking around the town square and he's got like a cloak and a goblet and some slippers or whatever, and how stoked he was about it, and Diogenes didn't care.
Well, that, and he was like, what are you going to use that for? Or what is the use of that? He was,
How are you going to use it wisely?
yeah, how are you going to use it wisely? That was it. And the kid was like, I don't know.
What does that mean?
But that's even something to think about. If you actually want to buy something, how are you going to use it wisely? Because let me tell you, if you ask yourself that before you buy something, you may not buy it.
Yeah, and I guess the part of the answer he was getting to is like, how do you use it wisely in such that you appreciate it and that you use it to its full extent? Like, you just don't put them on and just cruise around in them, because that's not the most effective way to get your most appreciation out of it. You know what I mean? So it was actually a big question.
Another thing that stood out to me was Alexander the Great came up to meet him. I guess maybe he was very popular because I'm not sure he even wore clothes. It kind of looked like he didn't, but those were
Yeah.
all like paintings. But he he introduced himself or asked Diogenes something, and Diogenes' response was, "Please step out of my sunlight," to Alexander the Great, which they said it was just his way of saying, like, no man is different from any other to him.
Well, I don't think he was even proving a point, though. I think he was just like, you're just a person, just
Yes.
like anybody else, and you're in my sunlight. So please move. But that's what they said, is he'd go around talking to peasants. He'd talk to anybody. He found knowledge was within anybody, not just people who say they have knowledge, or the royalties or higher ups. Which, I don't know, it was all interesting.
I I remember when I was younger, like meeting old people and really loving like how they'd tell you stories and like tell you about things that they used to do, and their lives were so interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, and kind of reminded me of how the art of sharing conversations with people is gone. And I told you today, me and Dad met that guy at Taco Bell, and he just was a super friendly guy, just real nice, just conversing. It was a coincidence that he ended up knowing my family, but I just think a lot of times today, if that happened, you're like, what a fuck, why is this weirdo talking to me?
Yeah,
It's kind of crazy.
yeah. I don't know if you felt the same way about when you were learning about him as I did, but the thing that was funny to me is, like, I really resonated with him, because I'm like, these are like the ideas I've always had too. Like, I've always had these ideas of just fuck society. Like, I don't care what they think. Like, it's weird because I obviously do care what they think. Like, I don't want to be like attacked and shamed and everything. But like, I've never cared about material possessions. Like, I mean, that's not true. I have. I still do, but not to the point of most people, I don't think. And I mean, there is even like a romanticizing about how he lived, where he had nothing to take. And
I
I've
know.
always said, like, that's the best spot to be, is have nothing, because nobody can take anything from you. Nobody can do anything to you. I mean, you're bulletproof, But he just had a lot of ideas that I think I've had in my own head for a long time, and especially what we were just talking about, where who are you? Why are you so special? And why there's so many people that treat other people like crap, and it's like, well, why are they like such bad people, and you're so cool? There's obviously a lot behind that. It's you know you can go into that, but anyway, I just thought his stories was really cool, because it's just everything that they talked about was like stuff I had on my mind too, just stuff I've always believed in.
Yeah, I resonated quite a bit with. I mean, I thought about him crapping and peeing in the street, and I was like, oh, what a gesture of I really like. He literally did not give a fuck. And when they said it in his point of showing that you shouldn't be ashamed, that it's just a part of you, I mean, absolutely. And of course, society today, it's not something that we do. We don't crap or pee in front of people, but what an intense man that he could just, I mean, he felt that way, but also he had zero, like to me, I don't care about a lot of things, but I think that would be my, I don't think I could piss and shit in front of people comfortably.
Yeah, he just didn't care. And I don't know. The thing I was thinking too is like, why? The weirdest part is like, why did they consider him a philosopher? Why didn't they just consider him some crazy guy that lived and he talked a bunch of shit and like did obscene things in front of people? Why did they consider him a philosopher? Don't you think that's kind of weird? Don't you think even like the higher ups would have been like, we're not acknowledging him. We're just gonna act like he's not there. We're definitely not gonna put him in history. Some guy that walked around who didn't care what anybody else thought.
Well, I think he had strong ideas that hit home with a lot of people. If you have Alexander the Great coming to visit you, obviously you're making an impact.
Yeah, I just you know what I mean. I just don't get how because like what if there was some homeless guy today living in a shell who just goes to the bathroom in front of everybody and said, "I don't care what anybody fucking thinks."
Yeah, that's.
How many people would be like Biden's like, I want to go talk to that guy. You know what I mean? They're a dime a dozen these days. I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was the weirdest part of the story is like how I feel like there's probably been a lot of people like that, but they never made it in the history books because nobody wants them there. You know, I mean, you even think about like the going to the bathroom in public. You couldn't do that today because you'd go to jail. You know, well, I mean, you do in Portland, but if you were a sane person and you just started peeing in front of people, like people would take you to jail. And it is kind of funny to think about that because what other life on Earth like goes to a bathroom?
None.
You know, what I mean, or hides around a corner, hides behind a bush so nobody can see. None. It's all like a supernatural thing to do. But we've made laws against it. I've actually heard of a dude in California that got drunk and peed in a parking lot, and he had to register as a sex offender.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, for peeing in a parking lot. So if you lived in his neighborhood, all you know is that guy's a sex offender. They don't tell you what you did. You could have raped a 3-year-old, or you could have peed in a parking lot. Nobody knows, but you're in that same category with the rest of those people.
Insane to think about.
So he peed in a parking lot, and he like I don't know what kind of trouble he got in, but he had to register as a sex offender. And it's like, but that's where society has said like, no, we're not even going to allow you to be natural. Like think about a woman going topless. Like you're not allowed. Men are, but women are not allowed to go topless because we don't. You know what I mean? It's funny like these rules that are placed upon us and like by who? Like who are you? Who made this decision that you can't see a woman topless or you can't see someone go to the bathroom? Like if you think about it, like in the beginning you think about it and you're like going to the bathroom for somebody, like, yeah, of course you shouldn't do that. Then you kind of think about it and you're like, like
The
well,
only thing about the bathroom to me is it can cause illness. So, as far as if there's a place to do it that's a healthy place, you should actually be able to do it in front of anyone that you want, but and not be shamed about it. However, our world has other crazy shit going on in it that
yeah. Well, even, I don't know, even like clothes. Like clothes to a certain extent are weird, you know? Especially when you like layer up on clothes and like, I don't know. It's like all kind of weird if you think about it, how you can't walk around. The funny thing is, like, you ever walk around or sit somewhere and watch people, like, people are always pulling on their clothes or moving their clothes because they're constantly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, constantly uncomfortable. Somebody's like pulling on their pants or like their shirt or like their
I do that
belly
all the
or,
time with my leggings. They kind of roll down at an uncomfortable spot. So I'm like, I
yeah,
fidget with them. Yeah.
everybody figure. Like, if you sit and watch
Bras make
people,
me uncomfortable. Like
oh,
I'm
yeah.
always like pulling my bras out like this.
Oh,
Cause
yeah. Bras are a huge one for women. But people are always fidgeting with their clothes because they're always constantly uncomfortable.
yeah.
So it's kind of funny though. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway,
Super interesting Greek philosopher if you want to look him up.
yeah. I guess we'll have to look into him some more. I don't know if that was the whole deal.
I'm sure not. There has to be more about him than that.
Yeah,
It
but
just was like a summarized.
yeah. Another interesting thing that you brought up though is this was like 500 BC, and you brought it up. You're like, it's interesting. There's been societal pressures and wants and needs and desires for material possessions and hierarchies and all this stuff. Even way back then, they were fighting a lot of the same things we're fighting now.
Yeah.
I mean, so much that this guy was like, dude, I am not doing this. I am not fighting these things that you guys have made up just to be cool with each other.
Well, it's kind of crazy to think about. I was telling you how my dad's struggling with all these technological things. And you have to think, like, if he didn't have these things that he had to deal with, his life would be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a pressure of him to be able to hear with these tiny little hearing aids that are a little complex to use, or his telephone. Then I started thinking about myself and how much, like, I was looking at him and going, okay, this is a lot. It's just user error. It's not his fault. There's literally no way around it, really. I think most people his age probably have like a younger wife or a nurse around to like do these things for them. I don't know, but anyway, I digressed. I started thinking about myself and like Facebook and Instagram and the internet and like how like you could let it like bother you in some way and it's not necessary. Again, why this Diogenes guy is even more amazing because could you imagine if really like an educated man right now that was maybe somewhat known was like, I'm gonna go live in a jar on the streets and philosophize about how material possessions trap you and make you feel like a slave to needing to purchase them and all of these great ideas that he had. And you really just you don't really need them, but you kind of need them.
I don't know though. I think that's some of the great movies have touched on like those ideas, like Into the Wild. The kid like goes to college and then he says, fuck all this stuff, and he doesn't deal with anything. He like just starts living on plants and start lives off the land, and then he just does his own thing. Like, I mean, anybody who I don't know, I watched that movie and I'm like, yeah, like this is where we need to go. And I feel like a lot of people want to go that way. They just don't. But even like Fight Club, right? Like Fight Club was all about the hell with the system. There's a lot of movies that are like that. They're like, this sucks. Like, why are we doing this? And everybody watches them and they're like, hell yeah, hell yeah. And then like 10 minutes later, like, oh, I gotta go to bed so I can go to work. Like, but a lot of people think about it and they think it's a good idea. It's just that there's it's hard to break the pattern. It's like, that's a big commitment, you know?
Yeah, those same people that are watching that movie saying, yeah, are needing to pay for their gas for their ATVs and their toy hauler and like all these things that they don't want to give up. And it's no different than we had that conversation of maybe we should start hydroponics. And we're like, we need to think seriously about this. And it's kind of hilarious to think about now that we were even like talking about it like it was a question because it just seems so, yes, of course you want healthy vegetables available to you that are going to give you nutrients and lower your grocery bill, but it is a weird blockage
Well,
that stops you.
well, yeah. And you know, the funny thing about hydroponics is I think you're a little bit like me, like kind of wake up in the morning and kind of like, hey, well, what's going on with the plants? How much do they grow? You know, and I mean, I probably look at those stupid things like 3 or 4 times a day and analyze them. It's fun, so it's the opposite of being nervous. But I had, you know, this is something I've been talking to you about lately is about determinism, and I think that's what it is. Is I think there's determinism in a lot of things, like your life's all predetermined. And I don't know if hydroponics is actually a good example, but I think hydroponics could be an example in determinism and why I could go tell somebody about hydroponics, man. Like you can grow plants in your house, on your wall,
Yeah.
nutritious, save money. Like, and they all go, yeah, that's a really good idea. And they're like, are you going to do it? And it's like, I don't think so. Well, and it's like, well, why? Because it's just not in your life's plan, I think. But it's funny because I think it's still in like you and I plan, but I feel like there's something in us that we like to at least act like we manipulate the plan. Or like, you know, we like to, I think it's in us. It's weird because like destiny is set, but at the same time, it's kind of like you think you can manipulate it. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but
I think it does.
like the hydroponics question is like, I don't know. And it's like, well, it's in my destiny to do hydroponics, but I don't know. Like I was thinking about today, like about when we were talking about COVID and something like 94% of people who are dying of COVID were vitamin D deficient. And we'd talked about this many times is like, why the fuck doesn't the government just have a bulletin or something that says take vitamin D? Almost everybody that's dying of COVID is like vitamin D deficient. Why don't they, you know, supplement it? Like why don't this like vitamin D? And like I was on Facebook, I think you were on Facebook going vitamin D, vitamin D, take vitamin D. But nobody could take it. Like why? Why can't you just take vitamin D? Well, I think it's because it's not in your determinism. It's not in your destiny to take vitamin D. And it's one of those, I don't know, it's just a thought that I've been working on lately about how you're just not destined to do it. And so you can't do it. You're literally just putting a little tiny capsule in your mouth. That's all you're doing to save your life. And you can't do it. You know what I mean? It's like there's just a roadmap for you. And if somebody brings up a good idea, a great idea, like you can't do it. I don't know. It's something I need to work more on, but I think it's interesting, like the hydroponics or vitamin D or any good idea. Why can't people do it? If you have free will, why can't you make that decision? If you have free will, why can't you put a vitamin D capsule in your mouth? If you have the option to choose to take vitamin D, why don't you? I mean, isn't that kind of interesting? Or is it just me? I've been thinking about it too much.
No, it is very interesting. I I wonder that myself. It's like one of the simplest things. And I mean, you know, in my late 20s, early 30s, I had a vitamin D like huge deficiency, like 0 in my body. So I don't know if that's why I'm so. I mean, maybe I would be one of those people if that wouldn't have happened to me. I don't know. But
I can't take a vitamin D
it
capsule?
seems so simple to me, like, especially after COVID and we heard all of these people that are dying are vitamin D deficient, especially after that. Everybody heard that. So why
Yeah.
then are you not taking a vitamin D capsule? Because you're willing to wear a mask, you're willing to take a vaccination. Why can't you take a vitamin D
Both
pill?
of those are harder than taking a vitamin D pill.
Completely.
So why don't people do it? I think it's because it's not in their destiny. It's not.
I think you're right. I think I've come to a level place of understanding. Your way of explaining it is very good with determinism, but you know how I was saying to you the other night of we're all individuals and like nobody really has a right to control you or try to tell you what to do, and it's no different than us with saying